Now, more than 69,000 Palestinians are known to have been killed in Israel's genocide in Gaza, but thousands more are missing, believed dead. Hundreds of bodies have been returned from Israeli custody since the ceasefire began in October. Many show signs of torture and mutilation and can't be identified. On Monday, Gaza's health authorities buried 38 bodies released from Israeli custody that couldn't be named. Thousands more are believed to have been killed by Israeli bombardment, but their bodies are trapped beneath tons of rubble.
She scans every face, every lifeless body, searching for the slightest sign of her son Fadi, a young man who lost a leg. For Rasmiya Khalil, the ceasefire has not brought peace. It's only begun another chapter of searching through death. Each quiet day that passes carries the same unbearable question. Is my son among the dead returned today?
We need them to run tests or at least give us a list of the names of the bodies. How am I supposed to identify my son? Yes, he's an amputee, but maybe both of his legs were cut off. They're bringing us body parts. How can I know if they belong to my son or not? There are so many questions.
Since the truce began, Rasmiya has come to this hospital 11 times, hoping that one of the bodies Israel has returned might finally bring her closure. But each time, she finds nothing.
I will keep searching and waiting for his body. Even if I find one body part, I will keep searching for it until the day I die. I won't rest until then.
Each return to her shelter feels heavier, as if she's carrying all the sorrow she couldn't leave behind at the morgue. What arrives here are bodies too burned, too decomposed, too destroyed to recognize. Rasmiya says every visit feels like dying a little more, living between denial and despair, between a mother's hope and a mother's nightmare. Inside this hospital, every returned body becomes a new chapter of agony for Gaza's families. Mothers are here searching for faces that no longer look like their sons. For them, war has not only taken lives, it has shattered the very process of saying goodbye. Israel refuses to share the names or details of those bodies it returns to Gaza, leaving families trapped in a psychological torment, forced to recognize their children by whatever remains of them. The war on Gaza may have slowed, but for Palestinian families here, the pain has not ended. For those families, the deepest fear is not only loss, it's that their loved ones might be buried somewhere, unrecognized, without a name, without a memory, and without being truly mourned. Tareq Azzoum, Jazeera, Khan Younis, Palestine.
Let me introduce you to Aseel Baidoun, who's the Deputy Director of Advocacy and Communications for Medical Aid for Palestinians. She joins us from Ramallah. Many thanks for joining us, Aseel. So, as we just heard there, each of these bodies returned by Israel, their fathers, their sons, their mothers, their daughters, each with their own story, stories that we may never know, but each also with huge amounts of evidence of potential crimes to offer future investigators. When Gaza's health ministry says the bodies are returned with signs of torture, what does that mean?
So according to many of the reports that we have been receiving, that almost all the bodies of Palestinian detainees or the deceased showed signs of torture. Many of them came back blindfolded, handcuffed, and even executed. They were horrifying to a point that, as you said, may amount to potentially grave violations of international law and basic humanity. These findings add to amounting evidence of systematic abuse of Palestinian detainees and the deceased bodies that Israel has been handing to Palestinians. We have been witnessing through this genocide the horrific crimes, the way that Palestinians are not treated as humans. And the families have been waiting to hear about their loved ones who were abducted or detained with no fair trial or no specific accusations, and they just returned and they couldn't recognize them from the amount of torture they have been undergoing with the Israeli prisoners.
Yeah, it's a harrowing experience for many of those families who are going in, day out, waiting to see whether their loved ones are there and being forced to identify them through fragments of clothing, fragments of bone, through decomposed remains. It must be hugely, hugely challenging.
Not only that, imagine that you lost a family member, you know nothing about that family member, and then you have to go to a hospital to see what has been happening to that family member. You know, a lot of people in hospitals have been talking about that everything happened in the genocide is something, but receiving these bodies and just trying to imagine what they have been subjected to in the Israeli prisons is something else.
Meanwhile, the forensic teams at Nasser Hospital and other facilities are working with almost no resources. How can they hope to gather watertight evidence of abuse that would potentially stand up in an international court of law, given that the condition in which these bodies are returned and the kind of facilities available to identify them?
Actually, with the resources that they have now, most probably they can't. That's why at Medical Aid for Palestinians, we urgently call for a full and independent access for international forensic teams and human rights investigators to Gaza, because they need to properly document and investigate the potential atrocity crimes with the evidence of these bodies. There can be no impunity for torture, but Israel is not allowing these teams, and we need accountability to take place for the perpetrators. And at the moment, with the facilities and the resources that the medical teams in Nasser Hospital have, I don't think that's possible.
We understand the bodies arrive in Gaza, some of them thoroughly frozen, and it can take several days for them to thaw out. I understand that can also prevent even basic identification, because as soon as the bodies start to thaw, that's when the process of decomposition begins. It happens immediately, making it difficult to carry out post-mortems or even identify people through dental records. Do you think the Israelis would have been aware of this?
I'm going to be talking now on a personal capacity. I don't think they care, honestly. Like, what they have done to these bodies, what they have done to Palestinians alive or dead, do they seem that they care about Palestinian families identifying their loved ones? I don't think so.
Aseel, it's been really important to have you on the programme to hear your thoughts on all of this. Aseel Baidoun from Medical Aid for Palestinians. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't miss out to get the full picture. Subscribe to Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.